All right, so let's start this broadcast with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour. Recep Tayyip Erdogan has dominated the Turkish politics for well over 2 decades now. But he's now facing his biggest political test in over 2 decades. In a few hours from now, Turkey will be deciding as to who will be the leader of the country next. Now remember, this election is taking place in the backdrop of the major earthquake, in which over 50,000 lives were lost. Now, there is acute economic turmoil that Turkey is going through, and the high-stakes elections could be the most consequential one in Turkey in over 2 decades. The incumbent President Erdogan is facing the biggest challenge of his entire political career. Erdogan has enjoyed a long 2-decade rule, but he has never faced such strong resistance. Now, most polls show that Erdogan is trailing behind his rival, Kemal Kilicdaroglu.
Türkiye'nin kolonlarında ciddi bir tahribat var. Yasama, yargı, yürütme dediğimiz demokrasinin ana kolonlarında ciddi bir tahribat var. Bunu düzeltmek istiyoruz. Hem Cumhurbaşkanı olmak istiyorum hem de Türkiye'yi gerçekten de demokratik bir ülke yapmak istiyorum.
Now, Kemal Kilicdaroglu is the chairman of Turkey's main opposition party, the Republican People's Party, and he is the joint presidential candidate of the 6-party National Alliance bloc. For the past several years, commentators have billed Kemal Kilicdaroglu as some kind of a modern-day Turkish equivalent of Mahatma Gandhi. He's also been dubbed as Gandhi Kemal in the Turkish media, and this is because of his passing resemblance with Gandhi's slight bespectacled appearance. Now, Kemal's centre-left CHP party is Turkey's oldest political party. It was established by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the founder of modern Turkish nation. Now, hours before the polling, the presidential hopeful paid a visit to the mausoleum of Atatürk. And after the Homeland Party leader, Muharrem İnce, decided to withdraw his nomination, the race for the highest office for power is now a triangular contest. Now, apart from Erdogan and Kemal Kilicdaroglu, the right-wing leader, Sinan Ogan, has also filed his candidature. Surveys show that Kemal is in the lead in the first round of voting, but if no candidate secures more than half of the votes in the first round, then a 28th of May runoff will be held between the two leading candidates. All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of what, of course, can be expected in these crucial elections in Turkey, we are being joined by Mr. Umar Oskizilic, a renowned political analyst and security expert. He's joining us live from Ankara. So thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. And let me begin by asking you this. This, of course, is being dubbed as the biggest test, political test, that Recep Tayyip Erdogan is likely to face in his political career. You know, give us a sense of what the mood is like in Turkey, and to what extent has the recent earthquake and also the economic crisis in the country impacted the chances of the sitting president?
So first of all, how is the feeling? It's quite tense. Everyone in Turkey is looking forward to tomorrow. The Erdogan supporters and its opponents, everyone wants just the polls, the election to be done. And everyone is awaiting tomorrow night, in which the election results will be incoming. And as the tensions are high, as everyone is awaiting, there are many people who are engaging very harshly and rapidly in the election process. We have seen that people who are less political have become even politicized in this period. But so far, I do not think that the outcome is clear. It's the chances are quite similar for both candidates to win. And the earthquake, contrary to most expectations, will have a little to almost no effect on the electoral decision makings of the Turkish electorate, because we have seen so far that the earthquake has not been translated into a rejection of the Turkish government or a full support for the Turkish opposition. It appears that the earthquake has been perceived as a natural catastrophe by the earthquake victims more than a political, and it was not politicized that much. And over time, as Turkey has quite a livid domestic political landscape, unfortunately, and this is something which saddens me personally, the earthquake has been almost forgotten in Turkey.
All right, very interesting then. Also, the fact that, according to the opinion polls, Erdogan appears to be trailing Kilicdaroglu, the candidate who is now fighting the election against him, he's also interestingly been described as the Turkish Gandhi because of his resemblance to Mahatma Gandhi. What are his chances in the election tomorrow?
So when it comes to Turkish polls, I am always skeptical about them and suspicious about the polls being released. There are some polls who suggest that Erdogan will win and others that suggest that Kılıçdaroğlu will win. But what we know is that all of these polls companies have their own political agenda and their political affiliation. So the same person who's conducting the polls is on night at TV advocating for one of the three candidates, actually. And so therefore, I would personally say and underline, don't trust the polls in Turkey, don't trust the Turkish polls. They are quite politicized. So, but what we can say is that even in these politicized polls, all of the results are quite close to each other. So the ones who showing Kılıçdaroğlu winning are slightly showing Kılıçdaroğlu winning. The ones who are showing Erdogan winning are slightly showing Erdogan winning. So it will be a quite difficult race for both candidates. And the nickname of the Kılıçdaroğlu Gandhi is definitely something which gives an impression of him, and he tries to encourage this image, but we have also to underline that the persona Gandhi isn't that much known in the Turkish sphere. The more conservative ones, the lesser educated ones, they know Gandhi less, and these are the people Kılıçdaroğlu would actually need to convince, and therefore he's using the economical aspect more than he's using his personal image.
Absolutely. Now my final question to you, Mr. Özkilic, is this. You know, Recep Tayyip Erdogan has dominated Turkish politics for over 2 decades now. Now, for people who are watching this broadcast from outside of Turkey who are interested in knowing why is it that Erdogan has been so successful in dominating Turkish politics, you know, give us a sense of why is it that Erdogan has been so popular for the last 2 decades, and do those factors still hold good in Turkey?
So let me say, I think the main reason, the biggest reason for Erdogan's success so far is the alternative. The Turkish opposition is such a bad alternative for a long time, and they failed to convince the Turkish public that Erdogan managed to dominate Turkish politics so far. And unfortunately, I see that many of the international readers don't understand the sentiments in Turkey. For instance, when people see Erdogan, they see him as the main obstacle for freedom of speech, while many big groups of the Turkish society see the Turkish opposition as the biggest obstacle in terms of freedom of speech. So there are some cultural, societal dynamics which Erdogan is based upon, and the Turkish opposition has so far failed to convince the Turkish public, and now they have come together in a pragmatic alliance to just out Erdogan. But many of the voters also question, if the opposition manages to win, will this anti-Erdogan coalition manage to survive? Because it's a coalition not based on ideas or common ideologies. It's a coalition based on a common enemy. But what happens if this enemy has been beaten in the elections? No one knows this. And this is something Erdogan understands.
All right, very interesting there. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Özkilic, for joining us and getting us that perspective. It just means a matter of a few hours before the Turkish people, of course, head to the polling stations and cast the vote to elect their next leader. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us from Ankara. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.